welcome to tonight's table talk, and we're having some mic issues.
I'm just fixing my mic because he said it was wrong. So I'm not sure. Anyways, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Oh, there you go.
I got good volume there.
Okay, right on.
I don't even have to yell.
No. New for you.
And we're talking about fighting right, and I don't have to yell.
No, you don't have to yell. We're going to jump right into this Wednesday's broadcast because, first of all, my name is Geoff.
I'm Helen.
And we want to welcome you. We're coming to you live from the Estevan Church of God, our studios, 1920 Wellick Road. And
yes, in Estevan.
We are looking forward to this program because we're going to talk about some pretty real stuff.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we wanted to do when we started this program is we wanted to talk about issues that maybe you would not hear in other churches and other places because we want to deal with real life issues.
Real life.
We don't want to become across that we're looking at ideals and, this is the perfect world scenario because we don't live in a perfect world scenario, and nor do we want to deal with things from a perfect world scenario. We want to talk about stuff that rubber meets the road.
I was going to say that.
Real life stuff, stuff that we're all struggling and battling with. We want to have open discussion about that stuff because our whole purpose is to give you hope, give you perspective, and give you tools. We've said at the outset we're not interested in giving you the answers. Some people put a lot of pressure on themselves because they feel like they have to give their answers, have to have the right answers. Sometimes there isn't a right or wrong answer.
That's right.
I know there's times that we want to come across that way, that there's a right and wrong answer, and it's black and white. But you know what? Sometimes it isn't black and white.
I know.
And the more we fight for black and white, the walls go up, everything else, it's always this is right, I'm right, you're wrong, this church is right, my church is right, and man, we're doctrinally sound, all those types of stuff. And I call hogwash on all that stuff because there's nobody on this planet other than Jesus Christ who came many years ago, was perfect theology, was perfect everything, but we aren't him. But we have him living inside of us.
And he's given us everything
we need for life and godliness.
For real
life. So we want to
right.
talk about tools. It's important because tools we can use all through life because, again, we don't live in a scenario where everything goes right. And
you know
so
what? And what are tools?
I want to learn.
Yeah. Even the idea of tools is sometimes like something's broken down. Something needs fixing.
Adjusting. And that's in essence what the life is.
It is.
It's us learning to adjust, learning for us to make adjustments and to grab the tools that they are available and so
sometimes, honey, isn't it like let's say we have figured out something and it's worked for us to overcome and navigate through something, but then we make it into a formula and you say, everybody, you got to do it this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you got it. But it's not a formula.
No, it
because
isn't.
Real life doesn't allow for
there's no scenarios where life works like that. It doesn't. We can learn from each other, absolutely. And there's things that we've learned through process and navigating through life and making bad decisions, failing, doing U-turns and making mistakes. And the thing is, and this is what I've been saying all along, those are all part of the process. We don't want you to be discouraged in that because those are opportunities where we can learn and grow. And so that's why we have to learn to deal with our disappointments, learn to deal with our failures, learn to deal with those things. But the minute we put a formula to it, the minute we put a system to it, then we think if we do A plus B equals C. And sometimes it doesn't work because real life is unique. Real life is not predictable. Real life can't be framed.
Yes, and put in a box.
And I think that's what church culture created in my life is I try to frame things.
Yes.
But if it went out of that frame, then it became black and white.
And you know what, I remember like us struggling with that because we tried to do the formula.
Yes,
and
we did,
tried to do it like, this formula, and we're like, it's not working.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with us.
And what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you.
Yes,
and so if we formulate it, then you can be frustrated because you're putting the same, you're taking my system and placing it in you, and it's not working. And so then the tendency is to throw it all in the garbage. And we just want you to be free and understand that God knows us intimately and how he works within us. And there's ways that he gets a hold of me, and there's ways that he gets a hold of you. And if we can remove the system from it, move the frame, move the boundaries that I feel God works within, because he doesn't work within our boundaries. Too many times through our life we've seen how God breaks out of the boxes that we put him in.
Totally.
And when we think he's going to work a certain way and he works differently, we're in position not to receive it or accept it, or we reject it because it doesn't fit within our system. And so real life takes us
out of the box.
Out of the box.
It sure does.
And out of the formula and out of the mathematics, because it's just, that's not how life works. And I love that, because too much of my life I try to map according to somebody else. And I found myself getting frustrated and difficult and working through stress, and it's just like,
I tried to map you into my map.
That didn't work.
Yeah. And we fought wrong.
Yes.
we did not always fight right.
No, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about tonight in the next half an hour or so, talking about how to fight right.
Wow.
The first thing I want to say is we're all going to fight.
You know
it may look different, it may feel different, but at the end of the day, you have two people that have different values, different thought patterns, different ideas. You're bound to have conflict.
You know what? If you have any relationships at all, if you're... And guess what? We're all here because we have relationships. That's Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
And so with every relationship, there is gonna be
the potential of conflict and fights to happen.
And the gloves are coming off tonight.
The gloves are coming off. We're going to tell you all our secrets. We're going to expose where we clashed and locked horns, and no, not really. We want to talk about how can we fight right. The fight isn't the problem.
Sometimes we think it is, because I always thought it was. I would avoid the fight at all costs. But you know what? That was fighting wrong.
Yeah.
Because I would avoid it altogether, and nothing.
Avoiding problems, avoiding confrontation, avoiding conflict, avoiding disagreements does not equal an easy life. Because we can't avoid those. Because many times, especially when it comes to conflict or fights, we're drawn into them whether we want to or not. And understanding how to fight right. And so we want to give you some tools and some things that might help you in your context, in your situation, because we've had it many times. We've had it out. And sometimes it was best for us just to get in the car and drive away and think about it, because the tension was very... And we fight different.
Yes.
We fight different. I tend to be loud and overbearing and controlling, and those are the areas of weaknesses. And we've worked through that over the years.
My goodness, we have.
That's it. I tend to be the aggressor. You not so much.
No.
But yet in different ways.
But it looked different.
Yeah, it did.
Right? And we will share some of those things.
Absolutely.
Now we can kind of smile at them because they're like, wow. Yeah,
absolutely.
We did that.
Absolutely. We want to look at 5 things in order for you to fight right.
Okay.
Notice it's not avoiding the fight.
Yeah, that was huge.
That's huge.
I didn't even think of that before now.
Yeah.
But that is huge, because that was my issue. I wanted to avoid the fight.
If you really value relationships and the difference that other people bring to the table, it often is unavoidable, because at the end of the day, maybe early on it's not an issue, but sooner or later you get irritated and pressure builds, and you're going to end up, getting to that point where you're going to end up into a fight. So how do we fight right, honey? 5 key principles that I think are important that we want to just talk with you in the next 20 minutes or so regarding fighting right. So the first step that I think in order for us to fight right is it's important for us not to take things personally. That's probably huge, because anytime you have the potential of a conflict, any potential of a fight, we tend to take things personally. Very quick.
I was thinking, like, I wrote this down. I said, don't take things personally. Well, with all of my insecurities when we first met and all the stuff going on inside of me, I wanted everybody to like me. I wrote this down, and it really, when I feel personally attacked, I cry. I probably cried for the first 35 years of my life. I'm past 35, just to let you know. But it was because I took things personally for everything. I was that label. I thought of myself as a sensitive one, but really it was just I took everything personally, and it wasn't always meant that way.
When you take things personally, even for whatever context, when we revert to taking things personally, we have the potential of being wounded far quicker than if we wouldn't take things personally. And that can be in any context of relationship. It can be at work, it can be at school, it can be at home, it can be in a relationship between your partner, it can be with your kids, it can be with family members, it can be outside of those realms. But the reality is the conflict is real, and the moment we take it personally, we set ourselves up to being wounded and hurt and affected by it. And so it's important for us to understand, if we're going to fight right, we can't take it personally.
And you know what? I feel like in the last 5 years, I've really worked hard at that one. And it has freed me.
With any context,
With any. It's not only me and you, but outside, work, whatever relationships I have, it really has freed me from the sting, because I don't actually have to take it in. Because before I thought I was wrong. There's something wrong. I'm doing it wrong. And it was like all my fault. That's not the issue, right?
I think I would have saved myself a whole pile of grief throughout my life if I would have learned this principle. Because even young on, when you're scolded maybe because you haven't done something, or you failed when you committed yourself to something you haven't, and people make remarks about that, and they make comments about that, or they're disappointed, when we take that personally, that affects us on the inside. And the more we learn to take things personally, it builds and builds and builds, and as a result, a wound starts happening, and an open wound is never healthy. And so a lot of times there are people that are walking through life wounded because they've taken things personally, even if it was meant personal. But if we don't take it personal,
that's right,
we don't open ourselves up for wounds. And I made a note here that says, if we don't take things personally, it takes the sting out. It removes the potential of us using venom or go into self-preservation mode. When we feel attacked, it almost is like we have a right to respond because we've taken those things personal. And it's amazing if you practice that. I've practiced that, and I've experienced that in times of my life where I refuse to take it personally. And if I do, I'm not in attack mode. I'm not in a mode where I'm in self-preservation. I'm not in the mode where I have to get in and defend myself.
That's it.
And then oftentimes when we begin to defend ourselves, again, whatever context, but when we take things personally, then we are wanting to fight. Then the gloves come off, and then we want to sting. We want the potential to use venom, because now there's some skin in the game. I've been attacked, and I want to deal with that aspect.
I like what you said, honey, that even though maybe they meant it personally against you, but if I refuse to take it personally,
it changes the game.
Oh my goodness.
It changes the game.
Really
my joy doesn't have to be taken away. My perspective doesn't have to be shifted. My attitude towards them is different when I don't takes things personally.
Yeah.
And I know, and you know, and you that are watching here all have examples in your life where things have been spoken to you and said to you, and you've taken them personally. It changes the game.
Yeah, it does.
It changes the dynamic of the conflict or the fight you're entering into. Now it's not so much, I want to feel good about myself, but I want to feel good at myself because I attack you and I go at you personally, and then it becomes a war.
Yes, it does.
So if we want to take the sting out of, or if we want to learn to fight right, we have to understand we can't take things personally.
Yes.
There's a second thing that I think is important to take as well. And that was a good one. Absolutely. The second thing I think is important for us to understand is we have to understand the difference between facts and assumptions.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but when you're in conflict, and you take things personal,
that's the thing.
then you assume, and even if it is not meant personal, but as soon as there's conflict, when we assume rather than understand the facts, and I don't know about you, but in the middle of a potential of a fight, we don't think right.
No.
Our mindset is skewed, our emotions are up, our dander is up. There's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of chemicals in the brain that are shifting and moving.
They are firing up.
And they're ready. They're firing and they're ready to go. And so we have sometimes a skewed perspective on what the facts are and what the assumptions are. And I think even in our fights, I think a lot of it was based on assumption.
Yeah.
And not real facts. Because I remember sometimes when we would go at it, well, that's not what I meant. Exactly. I did not mean that.
Yes, I'm assuming.
But I took it personally, so I processed things in here. And even if it was a work context or a relationship context outside of work, or maybe somebody said something in your community or a distant friend, it does something when you take it personally, and then you assume, I'm sure that's what they meant. I'm sure this and I'm sure that, and I know that. I know that for sure. This is exactly what they're. And you build up.
Yes, we're assuming their heart intention was actually to destroy me in some way.
There's many times, I think, in the midst of conflict that we've had, maybe not with each other, but with others, that we've built up walls because we've assumed the worst.
Yes.
And it's embarrassing. Oh man, it's embarrassing when you're ready to engage.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you realize that you haven't been dealing with the facts.
Yeah.
And hurt people have a tendency to always want to hurt. And that's what takes away freedom. That's what takes away joy. And so we have to understand the difference between facts and assumptions. And I put a note here. It says this. Usually when that happens, usually it becomes a war of words and allegations. The gloves come off. And it's about who has the most ammo and who can bring up the biggest dirt in the past. All upon assumptions. Even when we make mistakes, if we don't know the heart intention, we can make assumptions and say, see, they're going.
And we've done that. I remember.
Absolutely. I would say probably 90% of when we've bashed. It's been assumptions. It's been that we've taken things personally and we have assumed the worst, and then we go at it that way.
Intention.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Third.
Yes, number three.
Number three is we have to understand this. I like this one.
This is a funny one.
Understand that volume doesn't prove validity.
What?
Volume.
Did you?
We have to understand that volume doesn't prove validity.
So
it's like it gets louder, it's more important. It gets louder.
Turn it up.
It's like turn the volume when we really said our piece.
Because then we think we're going to win. The louder we get. Yeah.
We think that our volume shows the seriousness and highlight what's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'm not sure.
You gonna throw something at me?
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna throw something at you. Yeah, because you did turn up the volume. You were a volume turner.
I'm a volume turner.
Yeah, you haven't used that volume for a long time.
I've learned to deal with that.
We have learned to fight right in a lot of ways because
we have,
we've fought a lot of wrong ways, and you know what? It sucked. It is way too painful fighting the wrong way. It's really painful.
Yeah,
but I remember working through that where the volume would go up and mine would go down because we process very different.
We do, yeah.
Right? So
and if we can give each other grace, if we can give people that we're having conflict with grace and not assume and not take things personal and not use a volume to show validity, but rather to sit back and sometimes you gotta notice often it's the loudest voices or the highest volume people that do most of all the talking.
Yes.
Isn't it?
I wonder why.
For my own personal, I think because it really feels like you've got a handle on it. I have the answer, and the volume is up, and you dominate the conversation, and you have all the facts in order, you have all the accusations there, you have all the reasons for it. I don't know why. I think at the end of the day, people want to be validated, and when you're often the potential when you're in a fight, you're looking for validation. You're looking for your point to be made. Yeah. And if it's not made,
you want to be heard.
I think I like that because I think at the end of the day, I think the heart of people want to be heard. And when they're not heard, that's when the volume can get up. And that's when all these things play into that.
And I think when our mindset just stays in my box, because I really wanted you to just jump onto my map and do it my way, because I thought mine was the right way. I did. I thought that for years, honey.
Again, that's the assumption. That's point two. That's the assumption part.
Because I didn't understand that we thought and processed, and we had such different personalities.
Yeah.
You weren't wrong, but I thought you were. And so the thing is, you just wanted to be heard, but I was right.
Yeah.
So it creates this volume. Everyone gets up in volume to try to prove that you're not hearing me.
Yeah.
Well, we're not hearing each other. The volume doesn't create you being heard.
Sometimes we've got to learn in the middle of a battle or a war. We just need to take a few breaths and allow ourselves to process without always wanting to engage. It's almost like when you took a breath, that was my moment. And then I wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
And that's often what happens because we feel like people don't understand us.
That's the thing.
And because they don't understand us, we have to talk all the more and make our point so that they understand us. Yeah. And in that aspect of the fight or the conflict, we have to give people grace to realize they process different. You're a way slower process. Sometimes I've often said, come on, give me an answer. Like, come on. Like, I need an answer. Need an answer.
Pressure on.
And because I assume that you're ignoring me or you're not giving validity to what I'm saying. And that's a wrong assumption.
Yes.
And we can make those assumptions all the time. We can make it in traffic with someone that cuts us off. It's like, he purposed to do it or she purposed to do it. And we build up pressure.
There was some
and then
slow drivers.
Sign language comes out sometimes.
Yes, I know. There was some slow drivers in Estevan today. You know, I love slow drivers. I really love. They've helped me grow in love.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, why? What? And I was assuming, like, why are they just trying to tick me off? Like, I wanted to really get through that light. And they're just, like, driving 25. It's 50. It's 50. Okay.
So understanding that volume doesn't prove validity. Fourth here, we're running out of getting close to our 30 minutes here. Fourth, this is a big one.
Yeah.
It's a big one for me.
Yeah.
And it's, you got to learn to practice self-control.
Yeah.
Self-control.
Yes. You know.
Self-control.
Ooh.
It's a big one.
That's a touchy one. I think it's a touchy one.
Yeah, it can be touchy.
It can be a touchy one.
Yeah.
I know, like, even with all that we've walked through, you can see how relationships can be very volatile when we don't have self-control, because we really want people to hear our opinions.
I really think at the end of the day, that's what it is. We want to be heard. We want to be heard, and we want to be understood.
Understood.
And Yeah. I wrote down here,
yeah.
unchecked emotions become hurricanes, and uncontrollable mouths become deadly cannons.
It sounds like shooting your mouth off. That's what that sounds
probably
like.
what happens sometimes, I'm sure.
Practicing self-control.
Yeah.
Because our words are very powerful. We both know that.
Yes.
So even if I had sometimes it's best to say nothing at all. Not always, but sometimes it is best to say nothing at all. Sometimes it's actually best not to engage.
I think it's natural for some personalities to be reactionary. Mm-hmm. It's this is said, that gets countered. Mm-hmm. This gets said, that gets countered. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's best for us to take a step back, whatever context we're in, and allow the air to calm down.
Yes.
And take a step back. Self-control. Nobody can control self other than yourself. We love to blame people.
And we love to control that person.
Yeah.
But we have no control over that person.
We can't control that.
We only have control over...
And we think by our words, by our threats, by our pressure, by our volume, we're going to...
Right.
And none of those things... It may get a reaction, but really we can't control the other person.
No, we can't squeeze them in.
We can only control how we are.
Yes.
I remember using the excuse all the time, well, if that person wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have reacted that way. But really, there again, I can't control what people say. We can't, especially in a leadership position. I mean, there is so much opinions about the leader and decisions and things they make that you can't take them personally. Or you have to learn self-control. And for so long, I did not know how to harness self.
And you know what? I want to say this because we all have self-control. I know it takes practice.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And I know it does, but we only have control over us. So when we choose to create that path of reaction with words or whatever it is,
this is good stuff.
To take that responsibility on yourself. And
that's key. We have to take, we can only take responsibility for us. That's it. We can only take responsibility for us.
That was FaceTime, probably from the grandkids.
Oh, yeah, that's an important one.
So, that is an important one.
So practice self-control. Again, unchecked emotions become hurricanes.
Yeah.
And uncontrollable mouths can become deadly cannons.
Yeah. So as soon as we stop trying to control
that's a big
everybody else.
That's a big one because we don't want to take responsibility for ourselves. We want to pass the blame.
Yes.
It's so much better because then we have an excuse rather than take responsibility.
I just feel like that's where self-control starts. Stop blaming everybody else.
Yeah.
Stop giving all your power. Oh, they have control over me. It's because of them I do this.
Yeah.
No.
We have to learn to free ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves.
That is a good one.
Fifth, so we said, first of all, we said don't take things personally.
Yep.
Second, understand the difference between facts and assumptions.
Yep.
Third, understand that volume doesn't prove validity.
Yes.
Fourth, practice self-control.
Yeah.
Now the fifth one.
Yeah.
This is another big one. Like a guy could go on.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Fifth, understand it's never about winning.
Shoot.
It's never about winning. Oftentimes
we don't thought it was for a long time.
But that's what feeds the conflict. That's what feeds the fight.
Yes.
Is we have to be right.
Yes.
We've got to win. We got to win that argument. We got to convince and
the thing is, if I'm going to prove that I'm right, that means I'm going to prove that you're wrong. So there's winners and losers. And
it's never about winning and losing.
And actually nobody wins then.
Absolutely. No. It just becomes a mess.
Nope.
I put a note here. Often we use the past as fuel for what's in the future.
Oh.
We use the past as fuel. I look at my own life. I've blamed a lot of people for my mess. I blamed a lot of people of why I was the way I was. I blamed the church, church culture for the way I turned out and where my struggle and battle was. And I realized I've got to stop doing that because then I'm giving power to others over my life.
And then you have to prove something. You
Absolutely.
always have to prove that you're right. And it's just, you know what? It's not worth that battle.
No. It's a battle. Yeah, I love the way you said that. It's not worth that battle.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually in a battle like that, all that's left is carnage.
Yep. Yeah.
Messed up, hurt, damaged, bitter, all those type of stuff.
Yes.
So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, this is. I'm glad you joined us today, and so we just give you a little bit of a snippet of just how we've worked through stuff and how we've learned, and thank you so much for joining us and being a part of Table Talk. We value if you log in or you view this afterward. We just want to tell you we have a YouTube channel, Estevan Church of God YouTube. These things are on there after hours and after the taping is. We got our Sunday mornings on there. We got a lot of other things as well. If you log on, and hey, when you log on, we encourage you to subscribe because it helps you get fresh stuff when we post things like that. And so we want to welcome you to do that. Absolutely.
Yes, and it's when you subscribe, it'll show it pop up. If you don't have time to watch it, you can
watch it later and all this type of stuff. It's just a neat thing about social media. It is really well.
It is so good.
At the tail end, my book, also Faith Reconstruction, really comes to working out where our struggles with faith is, how we see God, how we see our circumstances, and how God wants to work through all those things. We encourage you to get a copy of that too. Just give me an email, jeff.73@sastel.net, and we'd love to be able to hook you up with that because we just believe in it so much.
Yes.
So thank you again for joining us.
Love having you join us.
Love having you join us.
Have
and we'll see you.
Great night.
And see you next Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.